Hello. So today I'm going to show you how to solve two-step equations. So everything that we've done so far has been one-step equations. So we've done stuff that looks like this. We've done stuff that looks like this. And we've done stuff that looks like this. These are all considered one-step equations. And you may have guessed it. The reason they're called one-step equations is because they only take one step to solve. So we're going to solve two-step equations. So you guessed it right. That means it's going to take us 2 steps to solve them. So here's what they look like. 2x plus 1 equals, let's say, 11. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So there's a variable. The number in front of the variable, that was called a coefficient. And then numbers by itself were called constants. And then there's an equal sign. So we're going to solve for what value of x will make this true. So one way that you could think about this is 2 multiplied by some number. Remember, whenever a number and a variable are smushed right beside each other, that means multiplication. Plus 1 will equal 11. So some number, if you put it in here, times it by 2 and add 1, you get 11. Now I want you to think about what you think the answer is. I'm going to count you down 5 seconds to think about it. Okay, so you might have a guess. If you have a guess, write it up in your top corner if you're using a piece of paper. Just think about it. Now let's solve it and let's see if your guess was right. So when we are solving two-step equations, the first step that you always do is you do opposite operation to either the plus or the minus. Okay, so I'm going to explain what that means. So this is one way that these two-step equations could work. Another way that they could look is like this. So it's always going to be a number times a variable and then plus or minus another number equals another number. It'll always follow this exact format. So we're always going to start with this part here, with the minus something or the plus something. Okay, we always start there. So there is plus 1 in this equation. The opposite of adding is subtracting. So we are going to subtract 1 because we're doing opposite operations. Now, since this is an equation, we have to do the same thing to the other side of the equal sign. So I have to subtract 1 from this side as well. Now remember, adding 1 and subtracting 1 cancels each other out. So I can put an X through it because it's canceled. Now what I have is 2x equals 11 minus 1 is 10. So 2x equals 10. Now what does this look like? It looks like a one-step equation, that's right. So we know how to solve this. We did this last week. 2x equals 10. 2 and an x right beside each other, that means multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So what you have to do is divide by 2. And you have to do the same thing over here. Divide by 2. Now these 2's cancel. So we are left with x equals 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5, so our answer is x equals 5. Now, if you predicted or you made a guess as to what the answer is, was it right? Now let's check our answer. So we're going to go back to our original equation. And we're going to put 5 in the place of x and find out if it works. So I'm going to do 2, and in the place of x, I'm going to put 5, but I'm not just going to write a 5. I'm going to put it in brackets. Because if I just write a 5, that's 25. We need brackets because that means multiplication. Plus 1 equals 11. Now, we have to remember BEDMAS. Brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. And we have to follow BEDMAS. So the first thing here is brackets. So we have to do the 2 times 5 first. That gives me 10 plus 1 equals 11. 10 plus 1 is 11, so that means our answer is right. Let's do another example. $17 equals 3G, let's say, minus 10. So this is another way that they could look. This is still a two-step equation. It's kind of like flip-flopped from the last one. Remember, with an equal sign, you can always flip things. So if you see this and it confuses you and you want to rewrite it as 3G minus 10 equals 17, you can absolutely do that. So here's one way we can think about it. 17 is equal to 3 multiplied by some number, because remember, a number right beside a variable means multiplication, subtract 10. So some number, when you put it in here, times it by 3 and subtract 10 gives you 17. Let's figure out what that number is. So with a two-step equation, we always start with the addition or the subtraction. So that's right here, minus 10. And we do opposite operations. Opposite of minusing is adding. So I'm going to start by adding 10 to the right side. Since this is an equation, I have to do the same thing to the left side. So I'm going to add 10 here as well. Minus 10 plus 10. So if I take 10 things away from you and then give you 10 back, you have the same amount that you started with. So they cancel. 17 plus 10 is 27. So I have 27 equals 3G. Now this looks just like our one-step equations from last week. So hopefully you remember how to solve it from here. 3G, that means multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. These 3's cancel. So I have 27 divided by 3 equals G. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So 9 equals G. Or if you want to rewrite it as G equals 9, both of these are correct. Now let's check our work. Let's make sure we did it right. So we're going to take our answer of 9 and we're going to substitute it back into our original equation. So I'm going to write 17 equals 3, and I'm not just going to put a 9 because that would give me 39. That's not right. I'm going to put brackets 9. Whenever we're substituting, we have to use brackets. Subtract 10. Now, let's recall BEDMAS. Following BEDMAS, we have to start here. 3 times 9. 3 times 9 is 27. And then we rewrite everything else around it. 27 minus 10 is 17, so our answer is correct. Okay, if you feel good at this point, you can go ahead and stop the video and you can just head to your Google Slides. If you do not feel good at this point, stick around. I'm going to do 2 more examples. Okay, so let's do 5y minus 8 equals 42. 5y minus 8 equals 42. So this is a two-step equation. So when we're solving two-step equations, we always start with the plus or the minus, whichever one is in the question. Just a hint, there won't ever be both. There'll just be one. So whichever one's in there is what you're going to start with. There's minus in here. The opposite of minusing is adding. So I'm going to add 8. What I do to this side, I have to do to this side. So I'm going to add 8 here too. Now these 8's cancel. And I have left 5y equals 42 plus 8. 42 plus 8 is 50. So 5y equals 50. Now this looks like a one-step equation from last week, so hopefully you guys remember what to do at this point. 5y, that means 5 times y. The opposite of timesing is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. So these 5s will cancel, and I am left with y equals 50 divided by 5. Now you might know this one. If you don't, you might need to bust out your calculator to figure out this one. 50 divided by 5 is 10. So our answer is y equals 10. Now, whenever you are solving problems, one-step or two-step equations, the really handy thing about them is that you can always check your work. So we always should be checking our work. I know it takes an extra couple minutes, but it's totally worth it. So let's take this 10 and substitute it in the place of y. So I'm going to do 5 in brackets, 10, then write the minus 8, and write the equals 42. That stays. Oops. Following BEDMAS, we're going to start here. We're going to start with the 5 times 10. 5 times 10 is 50. Minus 8 equals 42. 50 minus 8, you might need to think about this one for a second or take out your calculator, but 50 minus 8 is 42, so that means that this is right. Okay, let's do one last example together. $18 equals 15r plus 3. Okay, so this is two-step equation. We're always going to start with the two-step equation with the addition or the subtraction. In this case, there is addition. There's plus 3. So that's where we're going to start. And we're going to do the opposite of it. So I'm going to subtract 3. Whatever I do to this side of the equal sign, I have to do to this side of the equal sign. So I'm going to do subtract 3 here as well. These 3's cancel. So I have 18 minus 3, which is 15, equals 15r. Now this looks just like a one-step equation that we did last week. So hopefully you guys remember what to do. You're going to have to divide by 15 because this is a number right beside a variable, and that means multiplication. So this means 15 times r. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 15. So these 15's cancel. 15 divided by 15, this is kind of a tricky one. What's 15 divided by 15? Think about it for just 1 second. It's not 0. Take out your calculator if you need to, but the answer is 1. Anytime you divide a number by itself, the answer is 1. So that means 1 equals r, or r equals 1. Let's substitute and make sure that this is right. So I'm going to take my original equation and I'm going to put 1 in the place of r. So I'm going to write 18. I'm going to keep the equals, going to keep the 15. Now instead of writing r, I'm going to put 1 in brackets. Plus 3. So following BEDMAS, I have to start here because this is multiplication and this comes before addition. 15 times 1. Anytime you multiply a number by 1, you just get that number again. So the answer is 15. Then I'm going to rewrite everything else. So I'm going to rewrite the equals and the 18, and I'm going to rewrite the plus and the 3. 15 plus 3 is 18, so check. We are correct. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. What you're going to do now is you're going to hop back onto the Google Slides, and there are 3 examples that I want you to try. Once you're done those examples, you're going to move the box and check your answer. If you got it wrong, there's a video for you to watch.